Hello, hello, hello. We're doing a Bakasana practice, whatever that means. We'll find out. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I've been teaching yoga for over 25 years. I guess I can say 26 now. And Bakasana means crane, not crow. So I've been calling this pose crow pose in English for years, and it's crane. So according to BKS Iyengar and Light on Yoga, because sometimes I check in with that little negative wisdom to see, where did that master drop into this asana? And one of the other interesting tidbits, I don't know how far his scale goes. I got up to 40. So it's a level 9 out of 40 on his continuum of how difficult the asana practices he saw them as. So we're 9. Why not 11? But we're 9. Anyhow, so what we need is to really understand. So the focus we're going to just dive into is, what is the most weight-bearing, closest to the earth part of you? And you're seated right now, and in most of the yoga poses you do, your pelvis, particularly right where your tailbone and your sacrum meet, and at the bottom of your pubic bone, will be the most weight-bearing, closest to the earth place where you're pulling energy into and then learning how to expand it back out. Not just a little side note on that does shift for men. It's higher up. The pubic bone rests higher in males. So women, we have a lower center of gravity. Comes in handy to know for a pose like an arm balance, where we shift the most dominant weight-bearing place up to the base of the heart. Like, where's your shoulder blades and your sternum? And so we've got to really be able to pull the heart way forward, especially if you're female and your center of mass is going to be lower. So I chose to sit in this pose. It's supported Vajrasana with a blanket underneath my thighs, because this is the general shape of Bakasana. And then one little secret here is I've got my feet together, because ideally at the end of the day, if we were doing the full pose, which I don't really get hung up on, the feet pull together and the heels pull up to your buttocks. So you're already doing a version of the pose. Put your arms out like this, bend your elbows, pull your shoulder blades onto your back, zip up your navel and your core, and then see if you can pull your heels up to your glutes. And how that will tone the backside of your legs. And so I like to always point out, let's get rid of the phrase, I can't do the pose, because you're in it, you're doing it. This is the shape of the pose. So we shape shift and recognize the way we relate to our body, to our abilities. And so we'll hold this pose, because that's one thing. A lot of people can do crane pose, Bakasana, but they think they can't, quote, because they don't actually get hang time, air time. So we're going to hold this pose and breathe in this pose and keep your heels pulling towards your glutes. Keep your core activated. Keep your elbows drawing in and your shoulder blades on your back. And now, as you pull your core in, gently press your heart towards your hands, and then your hands away. And notice how you've got to keep rounding your belly to keep your glutes pulling to your heels to your glutes. And we'll breathe here and let this be the centering practice of the pose. So it's not a rest pose, it's an active, come into your body, say good morning. And then let that rest. Circle out your shoulders. Notice just that action with the wrist flex. It made the extensor muscles in your arms a little tired, so they warmed up. You're already taking off your sweatshirts. And there we go. All right, so we're going to take that same blanket, 2 blocks, blanket on the floor. And if you don't have yoga blankets, I highly recommend you invest in 2. If you really want to help your practice, 2. So put your heels on your blanket, balls of your feet on the floor. Now, a lot of folks have sticky, tricky, tight knees. Knee joints don't work so well. So we're going to bend the knees and fire up these big muscles on the back of you called your glutes. Push your hands down into your upper thigh bones and see if you can get the antagonist muscle to chill out. And now use that to hollow out your core and push down into your thighs like you mean. And if you've got really long arms, they may not go all the way straight like my shorter arms do. And let's see if you can, when you breathe in, can you tone the low belly to the lower back? Can you bring your shoulder blades right into your heart space? And now imagine you could pull your heels up to your buttocks, but you're not moving your feet. And you'll feel those muscles get stronger as you push down through your hands. Pull the heart as far forward as you possibly can without losing traction in the back of your butt. So way out there. My feet are pretty wide here. And then we'll take Bakasana arms. Now see if you can get elbows into inner knees. And now squeeze your ankles, your heels, your elbows, your knees in and breathe here. And pull the heart forward without losing traction in your back of your legs. And so we're in the pose, breathing in the pose. Maintaining breath and awareness. So right now, the dominant focal point is your pelvis, pulling energy into the core of the hips and pushing down from the core of the hips and then forward. Grip the floor with your toes and one hand at a time, help yourself up. Let's take a stand on your right leg and get a little quad stretch. Pull that heel to your buttocks, lift your elbow, and just think about the sensation. If your buttocks and your heel don't unite here, it's okay. You may have had to use a strap to lasso your foot. But what if you could zip up your navel and push your hips back? Maybe the heart has to go forward. If you need a chair you're holding for balance. And we'll root the tailbone down, pull the navel back, lift up through that arm that's holding your foot, and release. Switch sides. So again, if you can't quite get your heel to your buttocks, maybe we'll take a lesson from Bakasana and pull the heart forward so your hips can move back. Even if you can get your heel to your buttocks, that's a good drill. And then secure that by lifting up through your elbow. Keep pulling the heel to the glute. All right. And release. So if you take a fairly wide stance on your blanket, push down, squeeze your knees into the backside of your hands, pull up the navel. Now try to keep the kidneys lifting as you bring elbows in And if your fingertips don't readily come to the floor, that's where you've got blocks. Because I want you to be able to hold this and breathe here with some sense of ease. Now squeeze the knees into your arms. Make sure your butt's turned on. Now, if you're walking with blocks or your hands on the floor, creep the whole thing forward by pushing more off the balls of your feet and press your heart way out there, as if you were going to transition and transfer the most weight-bearing part of you from your buttocks to your heart space. As long as your feet are on the floor, it remains your hips. Breathe. And walk it back and lift up. Take the quad stretch. Keep your eyes in one spot, down on the floor right in front of you. Bend the standing leg. Straighten the standing leg. Bend and straighten. And just kind of watch for how low you can go without stressing out your breath or your knees. There we go. Release and switch. Find your breath. Find that gaze point. Don't move it. And then keeping the gaze point relatively close to where it is, push it about 6 inches further forward on the floor. And notice that you were more able to lean the heart forward. And release. All right, we're going to take the blocks aside. Take a dog pose with your heels on your blankets. Now bring your heels to touch in that dog pose. So the toes have to slightly turn out like you had a piece of pie between your feet. Squeeze your heels together. Press the knees really wide and bend your knees. And now push the floor away from your heart space. So in this pose, the most weight-bearing part of you is your heart, hopefully. So from the heart, push down through the arms, lift up through your hips, and bend your knees. Now, one handprint at a time, walk your hands backward. And see if you can come into a nice deep squat. If you have to take your feet wider apart, that's your invitation to listen to your body. So now elbows inside the legs. Crawl yourself down into your knees or outside your upper outer arms. Now squeeze the heels together. And when you do that, I want you to feel how your kidneys lift up. So squeeze in so much with your heels and your knees and your elbows that your kidneys start to lift higher than your hips. Fingertips on the earth. Access your breath. Good. And walk the hands forward, downward dog. Right leg up and back. Push the earth away from the heart to the hands. Stretch up and back through that lifted right leg. Lower right leg. Inhale left. Lower left leg. Remember where you needed your heels for your Bakasana prep. So if you have to widen your feet, as your hips and your knees say, that's what you need to do. Do turn the heels out and the toes heels in, toes slightly out. Walk your feet, your hands back to meet your feet. Sink down. Give yourself a pull in. Right now, your hips are holding you. Pull everything from your feet to your knees squeezing your elbows. Hands down, fingers down. Now, can you keep that little gem of beauty that you are? And dare to take the heart forward, pushing off so you lift your heels, walk the hands forward until your palms come flat. Now really push off the toes to push your heart towards the front of your sticky mat. Look forward, squeeze your knees in. Now pull one heel to your buttocks, just one. And we're gonna hold this and breathe. Push down from the heart through your hands and see if that other foot gets light. Don't lift it, but let it get light. And press it back. Root to rise to Tadasana. Circle out your shoulders. Oftentimes it's harder to do a more detailed drill version of the pose, I think. So now we'll take it from the top down. Some of you will find this harder because of your knees. So if you come into your squat, however you come into your squat, but I like the top down. Tone your belly. Let's take the hands forward and imagine your whole rib cage and your core is like the cylinder that your arms look like. Puff your breath into that. And then feel your buttocks by pushing down through your heels. Keep the buttocks active as you bend your knees. Push. Push the heart forward. Push. Breathe. When you feel like it's time, elbows to inner knees. Squeeze the knees in. Itsy bitsy spider your hands forward. Push off with your toes and push your heart as far forward as you can until you feel there's so much pressure down in your finger pads. Pull your left heel to your buttocks. Heart forward. Heel to buttocks, squeeze, 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 heel to buttocks. Push the heart forward another inch, gaze forward another 6. And maybe that right toe gets light. Elbows in, squeeze at the knees. Good, and rest it back. Lift it up. Okay, you ready? I'm gonna take one block and put it pretty far forward from where I'm standing. It has a psychological purpose. Okay. So if you like coming from dog pose back to squat, do that. If you like coming from squat down, in either case, help yourself in. Really let yourself hover and then push the heart forward, forward, forward. Hands down. Push the heart forward. Squeeze your knees. Now take your heart as close to that block as you can. If you're a female, you've really got to push it out there. Push with the heart forward until it scares you. And then you take a breath. Now squeeze in and pull one heel and then the other up. Breathe. Awesome. And come down. Some of you will like this. I'll give you one advanced entry into Bakasana. Some of you are ready. And it's from the tripod headstand. And so if you take the crown of your head to the floor, bend your elbows, use this tripod to lift your feet, squeeze the elbows in. Now you need a big, deep breath in And as you push from the heart through the arms, lift your head. And there's Bakasana. So have a seat. How'd it go? Any more success? This is a pose that some people just get right away, and they can do it on Saturday night and impress their friends. Others of us have had to work and show up and be with the nuance of it. And I promise you that if you can get your heart a little more forward and keep squeezing in and zipping up and breathing, you'll get it. So as you sit and now notice, how choppy is your breath? So smooth out your breath. And that'll be another place to work in this pose, where we can really truly blend exhale to inhale, inhale to exhale. And no matter how hard we show up to try to do the pose, the breath is coaxing us back into that place of knowing that we're already in the pose. And we're going to be with the pose. So now we'll extend your feet out in front of you. Got one last variation just to show you that you can do it. Feet on your blocks. According to your back, yeah? Well, some of you, they're further away. In fact, if they're further away, see if you can then pull them in towards your buttocks and lift your lower back towards your heart. Elbows to inner knees. Squeeze and breathe. Squeeze and breathe. And you're in Bakasana, you're in the pose. So this is a great abdominal drill. The gift of your own presence. If it's too much with your feet on the blocks, take them off. And release. All right. So what I want you to take away from this practice today is that there's many ways to skin a cat. There's lots of ways to do a pose. And let's let go of thinking that there is a final destination, because somebody will come along and ask you to take it sideways or extend a leg or lift an arm. And so the pose never, ever, ever stops unfolding. And can we just be in the play of it and receive it? So I'm going to invite you into your personal inquiry. What went well today? And take the one glimmer of what went right, good, beautiful, and give that your attention. All the other stuff, we must learn to let go. If you're working on making deep changes in your life, this is the place to focus. You can take a challenge, give it your best, and then really attune to what went right, what went well. How did I feel in that pose? What gave me that hit of, oh yeah, I felt strong, I felt connected, I was in the ability that is going to elevate me to holding myself in strength and steadiness. Draw your hands to your heart. Whatever variation of the pose you were able to hold today, whether it was I mean, there were so many where we literally held the shape. Drop into that and breathe into that and let that be the image that you crystallize in the mind. And it can be like a photograph that maybe you have to turn upside down or shift a little bit, and you'll see the variation that your mind couldn't see by honoring the one that you could see. So have a beautiful rest of your day. We'll close with an om that you send out to really uplift the world around you. Deep breath in. Big breath out. Inhale. Om. Namaste. Thanks so much. One day at a time. And yes, I'm teaching on Thanksgiving. So if you want a 45-minute class with Tiff, I'll see you.